So with that, I will turn things over to Jen and we will get started.
All right. Thanks, Mackenzie, and welcome everybody. We're going to try to explain to you what government relations is and what we do for you and with you and how you can help. But we're going to start by introducing ourselves and telling you a little bit about us. How did we get here and why are we your experts? And as I said, I'm Jen Smith. I joined MASB in August of 2012 as assistant director. I was promoted to director in 2015, I believe it was. Previously, before I came to MASB, I worked in the legislature. I worked in the Senate for about 6 years, in the House for many, many years, for various elected officials, and a very short stint on House policy staff handling ethics and elections, the community colleges, and the LARA budget. So I've got a lot of years under my belt in the legislative arena. I also spent a lot of time on campaigns, both before and during my time in the House. But I have really enjoyed being able to join MASB in this role and being able to focus on the issues that I really like. I've covered a lot of things in my time in the legislature, but now I get to focus on public education. And that's what really drew me to this position. And I've really enjoyed my work here. And I will now turn it to Jeff to introduce himself.
Yeah, hi, Jeff Cobb. I'm the Assistant Director of Government Relations, and I've been with MASB for just over 2 years now. And before that, I worked in the state legislature between the House and Senate for about 20 years. And then I worked for a couple different senators, a state rep. I worked in a leadership office, and then most recently, before joining MASB, I was the secretary of the Michigan Senate, which I was like their parliamentarian, essentially. So I have some experience when some of my previous bosses worked on the education committee, and so I did some education policy before that. And so, yeah, I'm happy to be here and look forward to sharing more about what we can do for you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Deshandria Bedingfield, the policy analyst and grassroots coordinator for the Michigan Association of School Boards, and I joined MASB in 2018, and before that I worked in local government. And thank you all for being here today.
So the first thing we're going to talk about is, what do we do? And there are things that you're going to be able to do to help what we do, but you can't help unless you understand. So this just covers some of the things in general. We are the support staff for the Government Relations Committee and the Resolutions and Bylaws Committees. Those are internal committees within MASB. We facilitate the legislative priority setting every other year. That is done in the fall of election year, so that we have new legislative priorities going into the new session that starts every 2 years. Through Deshandria, mostly, we facilitate the grassroots advocacy program to help you grow not just your board members as advocates, but those in the community that can support your issues and your public schools. We do a lot of legislative updates and trainings to all of you on demand, on request, to make sure that we're getting our information out to you as much as possible. And we also do that through News from the Capitol, which is a Friday e-newsletter that you should receive. It comes from Jeff and I. And it comes out every week that the legislature is in session. So if you're not receiving that, the next one will come out on Friday. If you're not receiving that, please let us know so we can make sure that we can get you in that system. We also do Views in the Capitol. We just did one last week dealing with the budget. And we did that in coordination with the school business officials so that they can dive a little deeper into the numbers while we explain what all the words mean. So in a nutshell, that drives what we do every day. But the big thing is that we're your voice at the state capitol and with US Congress. And we focus a lot on the state legislature because that's closest to home and that's what really affects, day-to-day sort of things. But we do have biweekly meetings with our National Association, with NSBA's advocacy team, and our counterparts from around the country, which gives us an idea of what could be coming Michigan's way or how are other states dealing with some of the issues that we're seeing. So we have that sort of support network as well. And then it allows us to support their work on Capitol Hill in DC with the Michigan delegation, with the information that we're receiving through all of those networks. So the MASB committees, as I mentioned, GR staffs government relations and resolutions and bylaws. There are 3 member committees where people are appointed from districts from around the state. It is those 2, and then the legal trust fund, which is run by Brad Vanasek. Committee assignments are made each August, and they're for a 1-year term, and you can serve 3 years in a row. Then you have to take a break. For these committees, work starts in August. For the R&B committee, the timing's a little different. It starts in November. But the how to apply starts in the spring. You'll see it in dashboard and news from the Capitol. The application window closes at the end of June. And then in the July board meeting, the board confirms who will serve on those member committees. So the committees are made up mostly of just board members from around the state who have applied. We do our best to make sure that these committees are balanced among types of districts, both geography, size, just to make sure we've got voices from all corners of the state and through all sizes of districts and types of districts. So we work really hard to look at the applications and make sure that those are balanced committees for the best conversations. And then we'll have our first new GR meeting in August. And then both the old and the new R&B committees meet together in November, and then the new one spins off from that.
Yeah, so this upcoming Government Relations Committee will have about 24 members on it. And like Jen said, we'll start having our meetings in August. And essentially the role of this committee is to provide guidance to our team in terms of what issues we should weigh in. What we'll do is we meet once a month. This is probably the most active committee that you could serve on. And once a month for about 2 or 3 hours. And we will prepare a list of items to discuss, kind of bring the committee up to speed on all the big issues that are happening in Lansing and Washington. And then we usually will have like a list of different bills that we will present to them and say, hey, here's what this bill does. Do you think that we as an association should weigh in either for it, against it, or just kind of stay out of it? And then we have sort of a broad discussion of it. And then we'll take a vote. And then we take the vote of the Government Relations Committee to the full board. And then they will decide our official position. And then after that happens, we put our position on the website for each of the bills that we do weigh in on. So that's available on our EVCAT website. The nice thing about our committee is that it's made up of people from urban districts, rural districts, suburban districts. It's made up of large districts, small districts, districts from the UP all the way down to Detroit. And so it's really a diverse group of school board members. And it's really helpful because some issues will affect some districts differently. And so as a statewide association, we need the input from all across the state and from all the different types of districts. It's really helpful for us because so sometimes we will go, we're representing the association, but it's always great for us to get feedback from the members. And this is a great area for us to get specific feedback from this committee in terms of how we need to proceed on particular issues. And then also it's great for us to be able to communicate to the members in the committee, and then they can go back and they can share with their school boards and share with other folks that they, all the latest updates that we provide for them.
The other committee is resolutions and bylaws. And this year we have about 16 people on that committee. And they are tasked with reviewing every year the resolutions and bylaws of MASB. And so we start that process in February. And the committee goes through resolution by resolution. Are they outdated? Has language changed? Are they unnecessary anymore? Or what are we missing that should be in our resolutions book? And these resolutions both act as guidance and governance resolutions for boards, and then on the advocacy side as well, so that we can use some of these resolutions when it comes to advocating on issues. If we can't get to the Government Relations Committee fast enough, we have these resolutions that we can look at as well to see where the organization feels it should be on an issue. Individual school boards can also submit proposals to the committee. This year, those are due by August 13th. If those are submitted, they're reviewed by the committee and then put toward the Delegate Assembly. All of the changes have to be approved at the Delegate Assembly. And then this committee also, day of, sets the rules and procedures for that delegate assembly that night. And we keep saying the words delegate assembly, but what is that? The delegate assembly is our annual meeting for the association. We are a nonprofit association. It requires a membership meeting. It is held in conjunction with our annual leadership conference every year. This year's meeting is on November 11th. And your district, you're going to start getting these calls coming in probably in the next couple weeks, calls for delegates. So your district is allowed a certain number of delegates based on population size. And your board has to officially vote in a board meeting who is going to be your delegate. And then those delegate names are sent to MASB, generally to Cheryl Huffman, and she puts them all together so that we know who the voting delegates are. At our meeting, we have to have a quorum of a certain number of delegates from a certain number of districts and counties to be represented to make a quorum. And so that's where that delegate count comes in. And at the meeting, only those that are certified as delegates are allowed to vote. Anyone who attends the meeting is allowed to speak. And then we go through one by one, each of the suggestions that the Resolutions and Bylaws Committee has made, and each one of them is brought for a vote. That vote, as of today, must be done in person. So last year, because of COVID protocols, we could not meet in person, and our entire ALC, our entire annual conference, was done virtually. That removed all of the voting from our delegate assembly, and our delegate assembly was handled as an update as to what the organization has been up to, our annual report, a legislative update, reports from our officers, those sorts of things, but we couldn't do any of the voting. So we still held the meeting, but now we have all of the work that R&B committee did that is rolling over into this R&B committee as well. So we think delegate assembly this year could be a little longer than usual, just because we're trying to roll 2 years into one. One of the big votes we're going to take near the end of that night is going to be, shall we allow votes to be able to be done virtually at our delegate assembly? So we're happy that we're going to be able to do delegate assembly in person this year, because until we change our bylaw that says it has to be done in person, we don't have an option to vote virtually. So that's going to be the big one on the list, and it'll be one of the last votes we take. The delegate assembly is normally in the evening, and it follows a welcome reception, following it is a welcome reception. But this really kicks off our conference. And so we urge you to get involved. All of the resolution suggestions will be sent out to every district for review, so that you know what's coming, so that you can work on, if you have comments or concerns or wordsmithing of anything, all districts get all of the information before you walk into the room at delegate assembly.
So as alluded to earlier, we do need your help in terms of setting our legislative priorities. So how we do it is every 2 years, we hold meetings across the state by MASB region, and what they take place in the even years in September and October. And so what we'll do is we'll invite all the board members in that area to come and share with us their ideas and what they think are important to them and what they think we should be advocating for here in Lansing and in Washington. And the only two things they can't say is just give us more money and just leave us alone. I mean, you can ask for more money for specific things, but you can't just say, hey, we just want more money. And so this year, because of COVID, we did this virtually. And our turnout was okay, but I hope in a year and a half from now that we're able to go back to meeting, in person. We had great responses, though. We had probably over 100 different suggestions that we compiled, ideas that people suggested. But over and over, some of the things that were mentioned at each of our meetings were we need better mental health services in schools. We need help with teacher shortages, and we need help with broadband access. And I think those were sort of the three kind of overarching things that came up at almost every meeting, no matter what part of the state we were talking to. And so what we do then is we compile all the suggestions that come in, we narrow it down to a smaller list and put it into a survey format. And then we send it out to every school board member across the state. And then they can vote on their top priorities. And then after they vote on those, then we take the results, we compile them, we put them into a list. And then we take that back to our government relations committee to kind of tweak it just a little bit. And then they take it to the board of directors, and then that gets approved by them. So it's a very much process driven by our membership. The priorities do not come from staff, they come from you all. And so I encourage you all to take advantage of that opportunity when we do it, not this coming fall, but a year and a half from now. So the priorities are available on our website. There's a link there at the bottom of the slide. I'll just highlight a couple of the key ones. So like I said, mental health services was at the top of the list. And one of the things that we're really proud of is we pushed to have more money included for mental health for our districts. And the budget that was just signed by the governor this week has $240 million more for services to hire school counselors, psychiatrists, counselors, school nurses, social workers, all those folks. And so that's a great thing for us. And so one of the other issues was broadband access again. And the federal government has really been active on this role. The state has not been quite as active, although there are some things that are happening at the state level, but the federal level, we're making some progress with that. There's several new programs to help school districts purchase devices for students that don't have access. And so access to good broadband was a priority. And then the other thing was teacher shortages. And we're still trying to wrestle with how do we incentivize teachers to go into the profession, because it seems like every district, no matter if you're a small district, large district, urban, rural, you're having a problem filling certain spots. And so that's one of the things that we will be really focused on over the next coming year. Altogether, there were 8 total priorities. I'd encourage you to check out the list on our website. And what we do is we put that list together in a fancy document, and then Jen and I, we go around and we meet with all the legislators that are on the relevant committees in both the House and Senate. So we go to both the House and Senate education committees, both the education budget committees. We go to the House tax policy and Senate finance because they deal with money issues and tax issues. And so we go and we present these to them. And that really helps drive what we spend a bulk of our time on is trying to fight for the stuff that you all think is important.
Hi, everyone. I'm Deshandria Bedingfield, and I run the grassroots advocacy program here within MASB. When I was hired in 2018, I was basically the person to lead this initiative from our board of directors, who wanted more of a boots on the ground approach for our members, because MASB does not have a political action committee, so a PAC, unlike other associations or other organizations. So it is basically advocacy 101 training, basically. And I'll tell you the difference between, I get this question a lot. What's the difference between our CBA 108 class and the grassroots advocacy program? The basis of the grassroots advocacy program is advocacy training, of course, but it is more so coalition building with your community and with your board members in your district. So a little bit of how the program is set up. So before the pandemic, your district would reach out to me to basically do a grassroots advocacy training or workshop. Before the pandemic, obviously they were in person, so I would travel to different school districts around the state. And if you are within our region 1, I have not been to the UP, but I have hit every other region within the state. So I would go and travel to different school districts. I've been to Genesee ISD. I've been to Mona Shores, Delton Kellogg near Kalamazoo. So I've been to a lot of different districts. So you requested me out, of course, and there is a form on masb.org/grassroots that you would reach out to. And I'll say this is the setup of the program. So there's step one, you would reach out to me and basically kind of schedule your grassroots training. The trainings usually last 1 hour to 1 hour and 15, kind of depending on the conversation. And the first workshop is pretty much like, what's the grassroots advocacy all about? Kind of the like advocacy 101 steps. And it's kind of all about like your district and who you guys would like to invite. A lot of districts like to invite their board, of course, their superintendent, their principal. There have been grassroots advocacy workshops where I've had PTA groups a part of the sessions also, and it does make for a more robust conversation. So the grassroots workshops is all like district oriented, community oriented about who you guys would like to be in the room to build these grassroots coalitions. You also can invite business leaders within your community as well. So these sessions are basically kind of the first session is, like I said, advocacy 101. And then the second step, which you would request me out to do as well, is pretty much more specialized to your district about how you guys would want to set your own grassroots coalition. And basically, like I said, unlike CBA 108, which is very generic for all of our districts, grassroots advocacy is more tailored to your specific community needs. So we do have them in district, of course, and we do have them virtual. I have done a couple virtual sessions throughout the pandemic. They're regionally based. So if you would like to, we kind of set up this program to basically have our districts reach out to neighboring districts, also your ISD and your county school board associations to get on board. Just like I said, it makes for more robust conversation and also saves me from a lot of driving to school districts 15 minutes away from each other. So having a regionally based coalition definitely helps and makes more impact in the legislative arena. And like I said, you guys get to invite who you want and kind of brainstorm your own coalition. And like I said, it's an easy 2-step process, and it's beneficial to all board members, and also I'll say community members as well, especially if you are a new board member. I know the word coalition building can be kind of intimidating, but also there are steps that you can take, especially as a new board member, if you're trying to find like your role on the board or your niche on the board. I do have districts that I've worked with that maybe necessarily haven't got to the coalition building phase, but they are doing those small steps. So I'll give you an example of like Genesee CASPA. They're doing a legislative meet and greet with their legislators this upcoming fall. I do have Mona Shores, who has also kind of just took the lead and basically created like a legislative liaison position. And this is not someone you have to hire. This is someone basically strictly on the board to basically talk about legislatively what is happening with K-12 public education. And that could be as simple as reading like any of our publications, our news from the Capitol that we put out every Friday. So it could just be as simple as that. So this program is basically tailored to have our members have a voice in the legislative arena other than our government relations, other than our EVAKit action alerts. So I would definitely, and if I'll say I'll definitely check out masb.org/grassroots. And we did just actually post a video on there. So I think the video definitely helps visualize what the program is about. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me, Jen or Jeff, and we'll get you more information. But I really hope that you take this information back to your districts, especially this fall when there'll be a lot of legislative things happening that you guys can put your input in. So I really hope you guys reach out and, schedule me for a workshop.
So we are your voice and your advocates when we go downtown. This is where we build the information that we can feed to your grassroots advocacy network so that you can fill in the details. But we on a statewide level, we're here, we testify in committee on pertinent legislation. Most recently, we testified in Senate elections on a series of bills from everything from one election a year where you could put a millage on the ballot. The other package was only creating 2 election dates a year. That's it, June and third week of June and November, and that's it. To another package that we could lend our support to, which would have created a March, June, November calendar for elections versus just limiting us to 2. And so we've been weighing in on that legislation and have been given the opportunity to testify on that in committee. We also work with bill sponsors and committee chairs on our desired changes. That package is another great example. We have been working with the House committee chair or House committee sponsor to understand why we are opposed to her approach of 2 dates. We really have made some inroads with that. And I think that we're getting into a positive space. And then when we can't be there to speak in person, we submit written testimony. And sometimes we'll do both. We'll speak it and we'll turn it in writing so that they have something tangible they walk away from. But where does all that testimony come from? And that comes back to our GR committee. It goes back to GR committee. It goes back to our resolutions and bylaws book, and just our conversations with all of you help feed what we need to share with the legislature so that they understand what these bills mean to districts on the ground. It's very easy to sit in Lansing and decide this one size fits all is going to work. And it's our job to come in and be like, well, that fits this size, but you've got 500 other sizes of districts to deal with. So that's sort of our job to begin with, is to get that conversation moving. And this is some of the most important ways that we can do that. There's also a lot of one-on-one conversations that we have with legislators beyond what you see on your screen, beyond the public facing. There's a lot of meetings we do behind the scenes, starting with bill sponsors, committee chairs, members of the committee, leadership in their caucuses, all to try to get our message across as to what's important, what's not important, what we can do, what is completely impossible that you're asking us to do, and those sorts of things. We build all that into what we share with you. You don't want to know every conversation we've had. You'd get bored in a hurry. So what we do is put together a News from the Capitol, as I mentioned before. There's an example there from June 18th. That comes out every Friday that they're in session. And we highlight some of the bigger things that happened that week. If MASB testified, if we stopped a bill, if we got a bill, if something's moving that we need you to be aware of because you want to weigh in on that. We try to pull that out of the other noise that's happening in Lansing that week and send you what you need to know. We also, on our state activities site, on our main page, on our main MASB website, we keep things up there such as the budget breakdown. Every time we updated the budget breakdown as to which chamber is saying what, that was put up on our state activities page. We have things up there about how tax policies affect our school revenues, which has become a priority of ours to try to stop those changes that negatively affect school revenues. If we have policy papers that are available, those will go up there as well, which take one particular policy we may be bugging you guys about, and we spell it out a little more than just what you see in News from the Capitol. We give you the position, the why, the how it affects you, and what happens next in those policy papers. So these two spots, our EVACIT site and the main state activities site, are the best places to get information as to what we're up to, what our positions are on bills. And as I've said before, and we'll keep saying throughout this, if you're not receiving News from the Capitol, please let us know. Because any alerts that we also do to say, please call your legislator, which we'll give you an example of that in a moment, that comes out of our News from the Capitol site as well. We do not merge our membership database and our advocacy databases because we'd like to build our advocacy database beyond board members. So some of the work that DeShandria is doing with districts in building those coalitions, we can add those in to our advocacy database as well, so that it's not just board members hearing what we're working on and hearing what we're asking you to do. It is those members of your coalitions as well.
And so sometimes what we'll do, if there's a really important issue that we need your help in, we will send out a legislative alert. And so this one is our most recent one that we sent out. It was on a House Bill 4167. And essentially with this, it was a bill to require these very unnecessary inspections that were going to be timely and costly, and and districts already have safety inspections. And so it was really an unnecessary and burdensome bill. And so the bill came out of Education Committee because the chair had sort of made a promise to the sponsor to vote on it. And it was on the House floor. And what we did is we sent out this legislative alert and said, hey, contact your state rep and tell them we have concerns about this, that we don't need this bill. And lo and behold, you guys responded overwhelmingly. And the next thing we know, the bill was being sent back to committee and they didn't vote on the bill. And so that's a real good victory for us. And so what this highlights is that this is a team effort. We can talk to senators and representatives, but we need you to talk to them as well. In fact, you're much more important because you have the relationships with your state reps and state senators. At least we hope you do, and we can help you build those relationships. So when you talk to your state rep or state senator or congressperson, it's really important to get to know them. It's important to share your stories and really tailor your message specifically to how things impact your district, because not every bill will impact each district the same. And so, and also just putting like a personal, story behind an issue carries a lot more weight than just, sort of broadly being opposed or supporting a bill. And then we hope that it makes it easy enough that using our alerts, all you have to do is click on the alert. It will bring up who your state rep is, who your state senator is. You can click and send an email to them. We will provide talking points on the bills. And so we try to make it as easy as possible for you all to get involved. And one thing too is make sure you say thank you. Make sure that you're respectful of your representatives. I know it's difficult sometimes when maybe your rep or your senator doesn't always agree with you, or maybe they don't, think the same way you do. But I think being respectful and just saying thank you when they do things that are helpful, I think that's a great way to continue building those good relationships. Next slide. And then we also have 3 different events that we will host and facilitate throughout the year. So as was mentioned earlier, we do have what we call Views from the Capitol. These are webinars, and they're hosted 3 times a year. So the first one of the year is usually breaking down what's in the governor's State of the State address. And the reason we do that is because that State of the State address generally drives what the governor is going to be working on legislatively for the year. So I think it's important for our members to understand that. And then we will also have a view that we just recently did on the state school aid budget and breaking down how it impacts your districts and all the different programs and funding and everything that you need to know for that. And then we will have another one in the fall that is a preview of the last couple months of each year, which the last few months of every even year is called lame duck. And so what we do is we give a lame duck preview. And for those that don't understand what that term means, it basically means that after the election, the legislature comes back and they can still vote on bills. And what we've seen is that it's a hugely busy time of year. In fact, they get a lot of stuff done in those 3 months. And so we will keep you updated through a Views from the Capitol, what we think is going to be happening and how you can weigh in on all those big issues that happen in lame duck. And we also host behind the scenes at the Capitol. And these are Lansing-based events where we invite school board members in the spring and in the fall to come to Lansing, and we provide policy and budget updates. We have experts come in. We have legislators come in and give updates. We'll do panel discussions and then facilitate a chance for you to talk to your state rep or senator over lunch. And the past couple have been virtual because of COVID. We're able to facilitate breakout sessions on Zoom with legislators, and it went really well. And we had a great turnout. We're still kind of in the planning stages for our fall behind the scenes Capitol. We hope to have it in person, but we're still working on those things. But it's a great opportunity for you to come and get up to speed on all the different issues that are impacting your district that are happening in Lansing at the state level, and to talk to your state reps and state senators. And then we also partner with the National School Board Association. They have their Advocacy Institute, which is a 3-day event in Washington, D.C., where they have a couple days of conferences, speakers. They present different issues. They have national leaders. They have congressional leadership come in and share this. So they just recently wrapped that up They had a special virtual advocacy institute last month, and we had a great representation from Michigan that attended that. Ordinarily, it would take place in late January, early February, and it will be back in person next year. And we really encourage you, if you have an interest in national issues, to attend the conference. It's great to meet people from all over the country, to hear from national experts. And then we facilitate a breakfast with our two U.S. senators, Senator Stabenow and Senator Peters. And then we also will work with you in terms of setting up meetings with your congressional delegation, so you can meet with your congressperson or their staff while you're in DC. And so all of these things are just tools for you to take advantage of, so that you can learn more about what's happening both in Lansing and in Washington.
So that's sort of a snapshot of everything we do. Your voice amplifies our voice. And one thing to always keep in mind is that you are an elected official as well. There's no difference between the ballot that you're on and the ballot that the senators and the representatives and the congresspeople are on. Your constituencies are the same. And in some districts, your constituency is larger than the representative you're talking to. So to keep that in mind as you're talking to them, that you're representing the same constituents. And so when you talk about my district is upset or my community would be impacted in such and such a way, you're talking about their community and their district. And that gives your voice more power than the average person who calls in. And we'll wrap up and take questions, but there's a couple of quotes that I like to share from people that we've talked to. And one of them comes this year from US Senator Gary Peters. When he was talking to us, he made the comment, "I can't help you if I don't hear from you." And I think that's so true. You hope, you sit back and you're like, well, they'll understand that this is a bad idea, but we need to tell them it's a bad idea. And when you can lend your voice to tell them it's a bad idea, because it makes them a stronger advocate on your behalf while they're sitting and having those debates with their members. And the other one that has always stuck with me from a behind the scenes a while ago, it came from a representative who used to be a board member. And he said that superintendents are paid to do this job. When a superintendent calls me, I know it's part of his paycheck. But when a board member calls me, I know they're doing it because they are a public servant and because they're doing this because of a love of the school. Because board members are not doing this for a paycheck. And so it's a couple of things just to keep in mind. While sometimes it seems scary to contact your legislators, contact us. Here's all of our contact information. We will gladly help you do it. We'll help you facilitate it. We'll tag along if you need us. But we're here to give you the tools you need in order to build those relationships, while we're also out there trying to amplify the voice of board members across the state. Are there any questions? One that came up was about how do you watch the latest views from the Capitol? That came out, the link came out in Dashboard today. It will also come out in News from the Capitol on Friday, but you can also find it at the masb.org/evocate website in our spotlight, the blue spotlight on the side. It'll say, did you miss views? Watch it here. You can watch it there. It's about an hour long, talking about the budget. All right, well, you're thinking of questions. I'm going to turn it to Stacy for a cool announcement.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stacy Bogard from the Communications Department at MASB, and we just wanted to give you all a heads up that there will be information in next week's follow-up email. So we always do the recording of this and provide some additional resources. In that email, there'll be information about how to join a private Facebook group so you can carry on conversations with your fellow new board members throughout the month. And we'll look forward to seeing you online.
And all the links that are in this presentation, when the things go out to you, all of those links are live, so you can use those to get to the various things that we talked about today. All right. Well, thank you for joining us. If you think of questions after you sign off, you've got all of our contact information. Don't hesitate to contact any of us. We're always here to help. Have a great day and hopefully enjoy the sunshine.